In your exam, it's likely that you're going to be asked a question at some point about the policy of appeasement. So I'm just going to spend a little bit of time telling you now in a bit more detail what the policy of appeasement was. So, essentially the policy of appeasement was recognition, if you like, on the part of Britain and France that the Treaty of Versailles was too harsh. It's often associated with Neville Chamberlain, Britain's Prime Minister, in the lead up to World War II. Hitler viewed it as a policy which was weak, and essentially it was a policy which helped Britain and France to avoid going to war with Germany. Britain and France were also suffering from the economic or the global depression, and they didn't want to have to start spending money and lives going to war with Germany again. So they pursued this policy of appeasement, that in the face of aggression they would hold their hands up and say, no, it's all okay, it's all okay, it's all okay. And that, in a nutshell, is appeasement, but I'm going to say a word or two about how that actually works in action. So, first things first, as I've mentioned on another video, we have the Anschluss between Germany and Austria, which is the first event really where you see appeasement in action. I suppose there is actually also appeasement in action when the Germans march into the Rhineland, which I also mentioned on another video, and again France and Britain didn't do anything to prevent them. But here we have an official event which is the signals the start of appeasement. So on the 12th of March 1938, Germany invades Austria. The British and the French public are generally concerned about this act of aggression, and they're concerned about the fact that this unity between Germany and Austria signals a direct opposition to the Treaty of Versailles. However, once Germany are in Austria and there is a plebiscite, a referendum to decide whether Germany and Austria should be reunited, and it comes back 99.75% in favour of German-Austrian unity, that pacifies the concerns of the British and the French public. Essentially, Britain and France are not willing to go to war over the Treaty of Versailles. That becomes quite clear after this event. What happens next is Germany tries to reunite itself with an area called the Sudetenland, which is an area around the border of Czechoslovakia. They're German-speaking people. The Sudetenland area is militarily and industrially powerful, so it's a very valuable place for Hitler to take over, to have control of. And there are Nazis who are part of the government infrastructure in Czechoslovakia, and they start making demands of Beneš, who is the premier in Czechoslovakia. He's basically in charge. Beneš doesn't accede to those demands, and so the Germans who live in the Sudetenland start to riot. At this stage, Neville Chamberlain, the British Prime Minister, actually starts to intervene, and he calls a meeting with Hitler, and he flies out to see him in Europe. When he's at that meeting, Hitler makes an ultimatum. At that stage, Neville Chamberlain goes back to Britain and starts preparing his country for war, because it's becoming quite clear that Hitler is not going to stop. Fortunately, Mussolini, the Italian premier, or the Italian dictator should I say, he proposes a meeting with France, Britain, Italy and Germany so that they can discuss what it is that's been going on. Interestingly, Stalin, who is in charge of Russia, and Beneš are not invited to this conference, even though they are going to be discussing events which are going on in Czechoslovakia. Beneš is the premier of Czechoslovakia, and Stalin is in charge of Russia, and Czechoslovakia is basically on his border. So it's quite key that those two people are not invited. At that meeting, the Czechoslovakian borders are guaranteed, and the Sudetenland is given to Germany. So they say to Hitler, yes, you can have the Sudetenland, but you can't go any further, basically. Once you've got the Sudetenland, that's it. Germany invades, and in disgust, Beneš resigns from his post as being in charge of Czechoslovakia. Chamberlain, on the other hand, goes home to Britain and proclaims peace in our time. He believes that this is a great day for world peace. He's even signed an agreement with Germany, with Hitler, that says that in future they will never resolve their issues by going to war. They will resolve their issues diplomatically. About 2 or 3 months later, Hitler takes over the rest of Czechoslovakia, and within about a year, World War II has begun.